Okay, you should be set.
Okay.
All right. I call to order this, what day is it? April 9th, 2020. 2020 meeting of the Moab City Planning Commission at 6:03 p.m. digitally. Citizens to be heard. How are we working that?
Well, if there is a way for citizens to submit in writing some comments that we would then either read or I would get to you before the meeting, and we have not received any comments. Next week, in 2 weeks at your next meeting, we're going to have a public hearing. And so that will work out a little differently. We don't quite know how yet, but I think Summer's got this all figured out. What we do is there's like our applicant for the second item is in a waiting room right now. So he's called in, but he's not participating in the meeting until Summer lets him in. So hopefully people will join via the Zoom platform, and then we'll invite him to speak on their item. I think that's how it works, right, Summer?
That's what we're aiming for at this point. And we also have a form for citizens to be heard that we've used for planning commission, or excuse me, for city council. And we're going to try to duplicate, I'm sorry, that form for your meeting.
Okay. Kaya, you're muted.
I am. Thanks. Sorry, that is not the last time that will happen, I'm sure. Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. We have minutes from our January 23rd meeting of this year. If I could have a motion in a second, if we want to approve those, that would be great. Make sure your mic is not muted if you're attempting to do that.
I'll move that we approve those minutes for January 23rd.
And I'll second it.
All right, motion and a second, minutes approved. All right, our first action item 4.1, review and approval of Planning Commission Resolution 02.
Hang on, can I stop you there for just a sec?
Yep.
We have to do a roll call vote on your minutes so that everybody can vote and I can have a list. So I'm just gonna call randomly if you don't mind. Luke.
Aye.
Marianne.
Aye.
Kaya.
Aye.
Jess.
Aye.
Okay, we'll do that for each of the items. We just have to have a roll call since we're digital.
Yep, sounds good. I will do that from now on. Okay, back to action item 4.1, review and approval of Planning Commission Resolution 02-2020, a resolution allowing the City of Moab Planning Commission to conduct electronic meetings.
Well, this is fairly self-explanatory. It's similar to the provisions the City Council adopted, but theirs are adopted by ordinance. Ours are not, because our procedures are not adopted by ordinance. So it's by resolution, and I worked with Lori Simonson, our city attorney, and Summer, and this should work to allow us and authorize us to meet electronically. Questions?
So do we need a motion to then vote on? So I'll make a motion that we.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, we'll do a roll call. Summer, you want to lead that off again?
You bet. Okay, Jess.
Aye.
Marianne.
Aye.
Luke.
Aye.
And Kaya.
Aye.
Great. Nora, do you want me to let the applicant in? Okay.
Okay, we will now, our next action item, 5.1, review and possible approval of Planning Resolution 01-2020, conditionally approving the condominium plat for the High Desert condos, which formerly were known as Worldmark and the Wyndham timeshares. Nora?
Okay, John, are you with us? Well, he's there. There we go. Are you with us? John? Anyway, the applicant has joined us for this meeting, I think. Okay, so this is another one that's pretty straightforward. This is the Worldmark site is how we all have referred to it recently, just north of town, that's under construction. And it was approved. Excellent, welcome. And it was reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission and City Council under the site plan review process. So the project itself is already reviewed and approved, obviously, and mostly under construction and getting pretty close to having some of the buildings.
Beach somewhere. No, that's a.
Yeah, I'm on a beach.
background. Yeah.
I wish I was on a beach. So this step is purely administrative. The time has come for them to record their condominium plat, which is more complicated than most plats because this is a timeshare project. And it's totally administrative. It just records what's actually on the ground. Condominiums and timeshare projects often function this way because the plat has to be absolutely correct with all of the measurements. And then once that's recorded, it allows them to sell property, to make a title change in property. So they're trying to prepare for that. And so this plat is before you for approval. And there's not really much discretion, but it's a step that we need to take. Anybody have any questions? Are you all still there? Anybody want to make a motion?
Or does anyone have questions for the applicant? Well, we did have
Him again.
If I see him come back, I will let him back in. I don't know what happened.
I don't either.
He's back. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. I noticed that the engineer made some comments,
Yes.
and I'm just wondering if the applicant was able to update their paperwork just to kind of fix those discrepancies that were outlined by the engineer.
They have not, but we won't sign it and allow it to be recorded until they're done.
So the term timeshare seems to have kind of gone out of favor. And so, but is it still technically going to be sold as time shared condos? Is that?
I can
what's
tell
happening?
you, I can tell you what my understanding is, and then John can pipe in if he wishes. So this is it's a pretty popular timeshare program, and they have these projects all over and in many resort areas. The Zion, Springdale has one, and they're everywhere really. And so people buy, I don't know exactly what it is that people buy, whether they buy a share or whatever. And they can stay in any of them. You know, they have variable pricing depending on what week and what location and those kinds of things. But any of the locations are available, and people can trade and go different places. So it's a little bit different. It's kind of the new model for timeshare that seems to be working for people because they have more variety of places to go rather than just always tying them to one place. John? You wanna
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I think your description was accurate. It will be a timeshare resort. Wyndham is the world's largest timeshare company. People can go different places.
I actually know people who are members and are pleased with it. So.
Yeah, Worldmark is a good brand, has very high customer satisfaction. They've got a lot of resorts in the Western US that people really like.
Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion?
All right, thank you to the applicant for chiming in. Yeah, if someone wants to make a motion, variety on the table, same as always. We can motion to approve, we can motion to conditionally approve, we can motion to deny, and then have discussion. So
I can make a motion. I move to approve planning resolution 01-2020, conditionally approving the High Desert condominium plat, subject to the corrections and clarifications as required by the city engineer.
I'll second that.
all right, I have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote on you, Summer.
Okay. Luke,
Aye.
Kaya,
All right,
Marianne,
Aye.
Jessica.
Aye.
Oh. So you can
Motion.
leave now, John, if you wish. You're done. You just need to follow up on some of the conditions based upon the city engineer's review.
Okay, good. We've already got some responses. And should we just work with Chuck Williams directly then?
Yeah, sure. It would be great if you kept me in the loop, just so I know what's going on.
Okay, we'll do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
So in terms of future agenda items, I think we're going to dive into overnight accommodations at your next meeting. Dive back into that. We also have a rezone request. It's for the property. The rezone is for the property immediately adjacent to Walnut Lane. It's split zoned like Walnut Lane was, R2 and R4. For Walnut Lane, we rezoned it all to R4, and now the neighbor it looks kind of like it could all be one project actually, but they want the same kind of zoning so that he can redevelop his project. R4 is specifically oriented toward manufactured housing, modular housing, but it doesn't have to be. It could be stick built. But it allows, it allows some smaller units in different configurations. So they will be asking for that, and we'll talk about that in 2 weeks. And then the city council is meeting on the 14th, which is next Tuesday. I'm still not real clear about what we're going to talk about, if we're going to do a joint session or not. Summer,
Nora, if I may, I'm working on the city council agenda as we're going through this process also. And we are planning to have the joint city council planning commission workshop. Right now, the agenda spreadsheet says discussion on overnight accommodations.
Okay.
What time would that be?
At 6.
Okay, thank you.
And it will be in an electronic format, just like this. So more Brady Bunch pictures.
It works pretty well,
It's doing a very good job for what we needed to do.
You should see my staff calls with like 25 different boxes.
It will be interesting. That will be the most we've had at one time. So, and you will get you'll get an invite for that as soon as I get everything put together. We'll do a separate Zoom invitation for the joint planning commission, city council, and then move on to city council, which you're all welcome to watch on YouTube if you'd like.
And that will be run by city council or run by us?
City
Council.
council.
Okay, great.
And I'll send an email out tomorrow verifying what we're going to talk about and
Great.
remind you of the time.
Cool. All right. Any other future agenda items?
We have some things coming in. There'll be a site plan for the new EMS building up on Second, whatever it is. Second North,
Mm-hmm.
First North. And that may be on your next agenda, or maybe on the one following that. We're still really trying to maintain business as usual. We're doing business licenses and building permits and home occupation licenses and nightly rental licenses. And so we're continuing to do as much permitting as we can, sign permits, all of those kinds of things. So we're trying to conduct business as usual. It's a little bit less efficient, but meetings are actually more efficient because, we kind of stick to the point and then move on. So that is helpful, I think. And we all are working remotely and have access to our network files if we need to access them. So, so we're set up pretty well.
Great.
I'm getting used to it.
What is our public hearing at our next meeting for?
For the rezone that I just talked about.
Cool. Great. Well, if that's it.
That's it.
I adjourn this inaugural electronic meeting at 6:20 p.m.
Excellent. Thank you, Summer. Thank you,
Thank you so much.
everybody.
You're welcome. See you next week.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay,
Well
bye.
done. See ya.
Good night, everyone.
All right.